Chapter 4. The Phoenix. Scott looked out at the shining waters of Alkali Lake. He put a hand to his head as he heard Jean's voice again. "Scott! Scott!" He shook his head, trying to escape from the voice. "Stop!" he cried, and pulled off his glasses. Immediately, a red beam shot out from his eyes into the water. Scott's mutant name was Cyclops, and his eyes fired a powerful beam. This beam could cut through anything, and only his special glasses could stop it. He shut his eyes and fell to his knees. His face was wet with tears. Suddenly, the waters of the lake started to move. Then the water shot up, knocking Scott back. He put his glasses back on and looked up into a bright light. Someone was inside the light, coming closer. "Jean," he said. It was true. Jean was in front of him, alive. "Scott," she whispered. His tears of pain became tears of happiness. "How?" Jean looked down at her body, feeling its power. "I don't know." Scott took her in his arms and hugged her. "I want to see your eyes," she said. "Take your glasses off." Scott pulled away from her. He could never take his glasses off. Without them, he couldn't control the beam. "I can control it," said Jean, slowly taking off his glasses. At first, he was afraid to open his eyes. "Open them," whispered Jean. "You can't hurt me." Slowly, Scott opened his eyes and nothing happened. No beam came out. For the first time in his life, he looked into the eyes of the love of his life. The two kissed. But something was wrong. Jean's eyes looked very strange. Suddenly, Scott's skin started to shiver. Jean had so much power now, too much power. And then there was an explosion of light. Scott's eyes opened wide with fear. The last thing that he saw was this bright white light. And then nothing. Back at the school in Westchester, Professor Xavier screamed in pain. Students all around the school could hear the scream in their minds. They held their heads in pain too. Logan and Storm both ran to Xavier's office. "Are you okay?" asked Logan. Xavier's face was pale. "Go to Alkali Lake," he told them. "Now!" Alkali Lake had bad memories for Storm and for Logan. Jean had died there to save them, but they were X-Men and they had a job to do. They ran to the X-Jet, the team's plane. Minutes later, they were flying north to Canada. When Storm and Logan arrived at the lake, the place was covered with thick fog. "I can help with that," said Storm. Her eyes went white, and the fog soon disappeared. But something still wasn't right, and they knew it. As they searched the area, Logan found something just sitting in the air. Scott's glasses. He picked them out of the air, not understanding. If Scott's glasses were here, where was Scott? Then he heard Storm shout from further down the beach, "Logan!" He ran over to her, and his eyes opened in surprise. He couldn't believe it. Jean was lying there on the beach. "She's alive," said Storm. "Jean was the only Class 5 mutant I've ever met," Xavier said to Logan back at the school in Westchester. "Her powers were almost without end." He looked down at Jean, who was sleeping deeply. Jean's powers came from a deep part of her mind. Her powers were too dangerous, and so I built several barriers in her mind. I wanted to keep Jean's full powers away from her conscious mind. But slowly, she started to have two personalities. There was the conscious Jean, with her powers always in control. But deep down, there was another personality, an angry beast that cared only for itself. We called this personality the Phoenix. "Did Jean know all this?" asked Logan. "I don't know," answered Xavier. "And I don't know if the woman in front of us now is Jean or the Phoenix. But I'm trying to build those barriers in her mind again and control the beast." "What have you done to her?" Logan cried angrily. "You're talking about a person's mind." "She has to be controlled. You have no idea what she could do." "I didn't know what you could do," answered Logan sharply. "I had a terrible choice to make," Xavier said as he moved towards the door. "Jean didn't have a choice at all," replied Logan. "I don't have to explain myself to you," said the professor, and he left the room. Warren Worthington Sr. was looking out of the window of his offices in the center of San Francisco. A group of mutants stood outside shouting angrily about the cure. A bigger group of people was standing in line hoping to receive it. But Worthington knew who should be the first to get the cure. His son Warren was led into the room. He looked nervous to be there. "Hello, Warren," said Dr. Rao. "I'm proud of you, son, for doing this," said Worthington Sr. "Are you ready?" "Yes," Warren said weakly as he took off his coat and shirt. There was something on his back. He had tied it up with straps so that it couldn't move. Dr. Rao took out the needle and brought it towards Warren. "Dad, can we just talk about this?" "We already talked about it, son." "Wait," said Warren. I can't do this." The doctor's assistants held him down, but Warren started to fight back. As he did this, the straps on his back broke. 2 huge white wings appeared. Everyone in the room stopped and looked at the amazing wings. At last, his father found words. "Warren, it's what we all want." "No," shouted Warren. "It's what you want." He saw the guards at the door, and so he ran to the windows. "Warren, no!" shouted his father. But Warren jumped straight through the glass. The people outside looked up and saw an amazing sight. A man with wings flying over their heads. Warren flew high over the buildings, over the island of Alcatraz, and out of the city. The young boy Leach watched this beautiful sight from a window in Worthington's laboratories on Alcatraz. Maybe one day soon, he would also be free.